Hello and welcome to part 2 of our mega comparo or mega comparison between, on my right, the English versus on my left, the Germans. These are two luxury SUV plug-in hybrids. So on the left you have the 2020 Porsche Cayenne e-hybrid, which is the base model. As you may have heard, there's also turbo e-hybrid. So the starting price of this particular one is about $93,000 in Canada. This particular one that we're driving today is spec'd out to, with all the options, to about $128,000. The base price for the turbo e-hybrid Cayenne is actually double that. So it's $188,000 plus options. So you can spec it out to well over $200,000. Of course, the horsepower here is 456 horsepower total system power, which is split between the turbo V6 with about 333 horsepower plus 134 horsepower electric motor. And both go through the 8-speed transmission. The battery is located in the back, and the size of the battery is 14 kilowatt hours. On my right, the English luxury plug-in hybrid SUV, which just arrived. The prices start at about $91,000, and with fully loaded, like as you see it here, it's about $110,000. The horsepower is total system horsepower is about 400 horses. That's why they call it P400E. Horsepower between the engine and the motor is 300 horses for the Turbo 4 and about 100 or 95 horsepower for the electric motor, giving you a total of 400 horsepower. So these cars are very comparable in price and performance. The Porsche is faster because the 0 to 100 is done in under 5 seconds, just under 5 seconds. Where the Range Rover, being bigger and heavier, the 0 to 100 sprint is in about 6.2 seconds, which is identical to our BMW plug-in hybrid. We'll show you the interior features, the options, and basically give you our impressions of how they both drive and give you a direct comparison of these two cars. Let's take them on the road. The Range Rover Sport P400E plug-in hybrid. So unfortunately we're given a car with a depleted battery, so we just plugged it in. It's charged to about a quarter of the battery, and it's showing the range of 90 kilometers for a quarter battery, which means on the full charge you should be able to get around 35, 36, up to 40 kilometers in ideal conditions. Because we have a cold day today, it's like -4 right now. And in the manual it says that the car may not go in the full EV mode if the temperature is below -4. So I'm hoping that we can get some EV mode driving. This car also does not appear to have an engine charging or the battery charge mode with the engine. But again, another article, you only have a save button here. So let's turn the car on first of all. Another article mentioned that when you are in sport mode, which we believe that we couldn't find sport mode here, it's just a dynamic mode, that it actually charges the battery as well. So let's check it out. We're gonna keep it in full EV mode. So there's a button here. As you can see here in the front, it gives you a total range of gas and battery. You don't have a separate display for the battery range. However, if you go to the My EV button, which is right here on the main screen, you can see that we have 90 kilometers on the battery and combined 559. This save button, it does not charge the battery like with the Volvo. So all it does, if you have some battery charge left, you can save it for later use, but it does not unfortunately recharge the car. So we'll start to drive in the EV mode to see. It is right now -2, so we should be good for, let's see if we can actually get the 9 kilometers EV range, and we'll find out how good the estimate given by the car is. So we had the climate off. Let's turn the climate on. So basically these displays are almost identical to the ones in the I-Pace. This climate screen is bigger But everything else, you're very familiar with. If you're familiar with the I-Pace, you have the 3 screens. Let's change the mode. So well, let's put vehicle. Let's go to Eco mode, and hopefully we'll be able, let's press the EV button. We have the EV button on. Ready, EV. So you see here that it shows you that we're in the EV mode. All right, so here we go. Of course, being a Range Rover, it has all kinds of settings for off-roading. We're not going to test it right now. What we are really concerned with is the EV-only mode in the city. So, as we just mentioned, when we had this car side by side with the Porsche, they both are in the same price range, similar power. Porsche is obviously faster. It's built for speed, where this car is built for luxury. They both start just over 90,000, and as it is, this is the autobiography model. With all the options, it comes to about 110, where the Porsche Cayenne e-hybrid starts at around 93, and our press car has been spec'd out to all the way up to 128,000 actually, and that's plus dealer fees, taxes, etc., etc. So obviously, as you can see, this car, in terms of the interior finishes, it has completely different style from its German counterpart. It's very luxurious. It's a lot of leather all over the dashboard. Beautiful sunroof as well, which opens up. It does so as well in the Cayenne plug-in hybrid. In terms of the EV range, they appear to be almost identical. And the battery, as we mentioned before, the Range Rover has a 13 kilowatt-hour battery, which is not much for such a big, heavy vehicle. The Porsche has 14 kilowatt-hour battery, but they both estimate that the electric range should be between 35 to 40 kilometers. The official rating is lower than that, especially the EPA, but as we know, EPA ratings are very conservative. I can actually see the similar blue band, which shows you how far you can push it before it goes into the gas mode, which is very similar to the Volvo indicator. You can see it has the Eco blue band over here. Once you push it beyond that, it will go to hybrid. It'll turn on its engine. The car is very quiet. I mean, they're both very quiet. Honestly, I don't think there's much difference in terms of the interior quietness between Porsche and the Range Rover. Our impression of the one versus the other, if you're looking strictly for performance, go with the Porsche. If you're looking for luxury and size, your choice most likely will be the Range Rover plug-in hybrid. What we did notice though is that in terms of the trunk size, the Cayenne penalty for the plug-in hybrid version is less than the penalty here in the Range Rover. In both batteries, in both cases, are located in the trunk. However, Cayenne plug-in hybrid seems to have more trunk space than the Range Rover. So something to keep in mind, even though the vehicle appears to be bigger and heavier and more bulky. But in terms of the trunk space, the Cayenne has a little bit more. The driving impression in the Eco mode, it is pretty sluggish, but because it is Eco mode, so we will try and switch it maybe to dynamic. Let's see if dynamic is compatible with pure EV driving, right? So let's go back to the vehicle and let's put it in dynamic. Most likely we'll hear the engine kicking in. There we go. We are in dynamic, but we're still in EV mode. But the range went down substantially. Obviously, yeah, the car is much more. Oh, no, we are no longer in EV mode. As expected, the engine came on. Okay, so basically, if you want to drive in the dynamic mode, you'll be in hybrid mode where both the electric motor and the engine are working. So let's put it back in Eco. Let's put it back in Eco, and let's put it back in EV mode. And the engine is still on because when you turn on the engine, it takes a while for the engine to actually turn off after you put it back in the EV mode. This car is running on a turbo 4-cylinder, which is unusual for such a big Range Rover. Both this one and the full-size Range Rover plug-in hybrid are running the Ingenium 4-cylinder 2-liter turbo with 300 horsepower plus the 100 horsepower roughly electric motor for a total of 400 horses. That's why they're both called the P400e, so Performance 400 Electric, or plug-in hybrid to be exact. Okay, so we're down to 1 kilometer range in eco mode. We've only traveled 5 kilometers and we only have 1 kilometer left. So as expected, let's see the climate. The climate is still off. So from the estimate of 9 kilometers, even though we weren't really driving that aggressively, the estimate was overly optimistic. And that we could blame that on the temperature. It's just gone down to -3. So as all electric cars, the range goes down by about 20 to 30%, at least in the winter. And then plug-in hybrids are no exception. You will not get, it will be very hard to get the actual, estimate from the gasometer, which we call it because the estimate that the car is giving you based on your previous driving, etc. In the winter, it's very hard to actually get that range out of pure electrics and plug-in hybrids. So if you multiply that by 4, your range is going to be around 24, 25 kilometers. That range in the summer could go up to perhaps even as much as 35 to 40 kilometers on the, which is not bad for such a big vehicle. So for city driving, for commuting, for short commutes, even though we're in eco mode and we pressed EV, the engine came on. So likely because of the low state of battery. So if you are in that situation where you have short commute of 30 to 40 kilometers and you have plugs at both ends, this could be a perfect vehicle for you. Let's switch it now back to dynamic mode. Okay, so the vehicle, since the battery seems to be depleted now, let's put it in dynamic and let's see if the battery will get recharged by the engine or not. So again, being a Range Rover, you have a full range of settings you can see here for different suspension settings, for off-road, for snow, for gravel, etc., etc. So it's pretty brisk acceleration when needed in the dynamic mode. We're down to 0 kilometers, so we don't see the effect of the dynamic mode of being able to recharge the battery. We'll see how it goes after we've driven a few kilometers on the highway. This car is also perfect for the European congestion zones where you cannot drive a car that is not a plug-in without paying a fee. We don't have those yet, as far as I know, in North America, but we're actually pushing for them. I think it's a wonderful idea to promote electric cars. Things such as free parking, free charging, access to transit lanes, of course, access to HOV we do have already in Ontario, but things like using the transit lanes in the city centers or going into congestion zones once they are created here would be a big push for EVs, even if there are no provincial incentives. We still have federal incentives, but they would not apply to any of these luxury SUVs because of the price limit, as you know, of $55,000. So all of those electric and plug-in hybrid SUVs we're reviewing in this mega comparison, they do not qualify simply because of their price range. Let's put it in sport mode, so basically dynamic and sport. So we're gonna keep it in the fastest mode. Yes, so this car, again, don't expect sporty performance from this car. Okay, because of the size of the engine and the weight of the vehicle. So we have been driving for a while now, trying to figure out if the engine recharges the battery in sport mode and Sport Plus. It does not appear to be doing so. If that's true, then basically this is the only luxury plug-in hybrid SUV that does not have an e-charge mode. And for me personally, that would disqualify it. For my wife, who is considering this to replace her X5, which happens to have e-charge mode, it will be up to her, okay? So I think it is a very practical thing to have in a any plug-in hybrid, to be able to recharge your battery through the engine when you're driving on a highway where the electric mode is not very efficient. You can charge it up to 50 or even 100% with some plug-in hybrids, and then when you're off the highway, you switch it back to full electric mode. Okay, so I guess Range Rover considered that this is not the most efficient way of dealing with the hybrid system, and that if you leave it in regular hybrid mode, that the system will choose its own between the battery, the hybrid battery, and all the plug-in hybrids keep the bottom end of the battery between 5 and 10% for the hybrid operation. So when it shows you 0 kilometers on the charge, it's not really true. There is a buffer at the bottom for hybrid use. We're sitting in a 2020 Porsche Cayenne e-hybrid, and we're comparing it with the Range Rover plug-in hybrid called the P400e. The Range Rover is more luxurious. The Cayenne is the more sporty of the two. They both have luxury amenities such as massage seats, cooled and heated seats, etc., etc. The Range Rover even has a fridge right here. They both start just over 90,000 base price, and this particular Cayenne is spec'd out to up to 128,000. Where the Range Rover was spec'd to 110,000 approximately in autobiography edition. So in terms of the powertrains, obviously the Porsche is more powerful. It has a V6 with 333 horsepower, and on top of it 140 horsepower electric motor, where the Range Rover has a turbo 4-cylinder with 300 horses and a 100 horsepower electric motor. So the Range Rover accelerates to 100 in about 6.3 seconds, which is equal to our BMW X5 plug-in. This Cayenne accelerates just under 5 seconds. So obviously it's much faster, as the Porsche should be. In terms of my comments on the interior design, this is a much cleaner design than the previous generation Cayenne. In terms of the plug-in version of the previous Cayenne, which you can find a video on our YouTube channel from a few years ago. So interior has been much improved, and the battery has been much improved. The previous battery was much smaller. So the battery here is 14 kilowatt hours versus only 13 in the Range Rover. Okay, so let's take it for a spin. So the main menus here. Let's put it in drive. I think we're in drive. As you can see, the battery is almost full, and we have the range of about 31 kilometers in pure electric. In order to change your modes, you press the hybrid button here, and you have choice of different modes. So right now, the nice thing about the Cayenne is that the car defaults to e-power, which would the plug-in hybrid should be doing. Then you have hybrid auto, e-hold, e-charge, sport, and sport plus. So hybrid auto, it just chooses its own modes, and e-hold is just holding the charge. E-charge will actually charge battery up to full. And driving from Scarborough to Etobicoke on the 401, we were able to get about 10 kilometers of range. So that's about 20 kilometers on the 401. So you can probably fully charge it in about 60 or 70 kilometers on the highway at the highway speeds. So as you can see, the 31 kilometers, the battery is not completely full. The electrical consumption has been at 33.2. And just to compare that with our e-tron, which this morning we took it all the way to Barrie and back, we got an average consumption of about 27 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. So Cayenne is a bigger, heavier car, and it's very high performance. So anyway, so we're gonna be in e-power. We'll try and keep it in e-power as long as we can, as we talk about the car performance and the various options. Okay, so here we go. It would be nice to turn the car on. See, that's the thing. It's all the switch to turn the car on. It's a little different than all the other plug-in hybrids and electric. It's right here to the left. Right there on the left side, as apparently most of the Porsches. The entire family, has been driving this car, both, my son and my wife as well. And surprisingly, she felt that in auto or in e-power mode, the Cayenne felt sluggish. Even when you put it on Sport Plus, compared to some of the pure electrics that we have driven and some of the other plug-in hybrids, you would imagine that the Porsche would be basically faster, right? So on a plug-in hybrid like this, you can expect that in the summer you will be able to reach 40 kilometers. In the winter, you'll be lucky to get 30 kilometers, which is basically what the car is showing right now. So we'll try and push it a little bit more as far as we can in the e-power. Let's see how quickly and how smooth the transition is. So the initial push is strong, but beyond that, it is sluggish in the e-power mode. And let's see how smooth the transition will be whenever the motor kicks in, right? Because that's the issue with a lot of the plug-in hybrids, is the transition is not very smooth. Our BMW is great. The Volvo is quite nice as well, the transition from electric to hybrid. Again, pretty sluggish because it's only 130 horsepower or so electric motor powering a big heavy SUV, but it's totally doable. And the system will most likely allow us to keep the e-power up until about, usually most systems will kick in the engine at around maximum 120 or so. So some of them will allow it up to 130 because in Europe, as you know, the highway speeds are 130. So most European plug-in hybrid SUVs are programmed to withstand the European highway speed limit. So let's see. Yeah. Oh, there we go. So now you felt the additional power of the 333 horsepower V6 engine in the Cayenne. And the transition obviously is quite violent. You know what, we should probably turn on the climate. Let's see where the climate is, right here. Let's turn it on. Ventilation. Let's see how this works. Okay, let's turn on the Porsche Autopilot, which is very similar to Audi. It's the same company. There we go. We are in the steer assist. Right now, mode. Okay. There we go. The climate is back on. And this is the climate screen, which allows you to control the ventilation, air conditioning, etc. So with the climate off and we're just above zero, obviously you can see the car is fogging up pretty quickly. So you should keep the ventilation on. Your temperature controls and your fan control is right here in this panel. So again, compared to the old Cayenne, this is much cleaner. It's a combination of regular classic buttons with touchscreen buttons, and you can be all controlled from here. So this is your climate screen. Whereas in the Audi, it's a third screen. Here it's basically a panel with a mix of buttons and touch screens. Okay, here you can control all of it as well from that screen. The main dashboard is part analog. The center tachometer is analog with a small computer screen inside it, and then on both sides you have two computer screens as well. So again, it's a very unique Porsche approach. In the Taycan, as you may have seen in our video from the auto show, it's basically fully digital. So it's different. It's specific to Taycan only, and Cayenne is different. The plus and minus here, all it does, it turns on the engine. It's the shift paddles here, as opposed to the full electric cars, are used strictly for changing gears in a transmission, right? So it's not really, doesn't do anything to the regen. The regen in standard modes is not very strong. Oh, I think I just remembered. So about the regen and Porsches. So both the Taycan and this and any other Porsche plug-in hybrid, Porsche approach to regen is they don't want the car to feel like an electric car. They want you to drive it as a normal any other Porsche. So the regen is strictly done not by releasing the accelerator pedal, but it's strictly done by applying the brake pedal. So up to a certain point of the application of the brake pedal, you will get strictly regen, and beyond a certain point, the physical brakes, friction brakes will come on. Okay, so that's kind of a Porsche decision in terms of how the car should feel. So if you are looking for, that one pedal driving feel, don't buy a Porsche, okay? Because Porsche philosophy is not to have that regen and for you to have to apply the brake pedal to get the regen. Very similar kind of in the Audi e-tron. So the Audi, as you know, Audi and Porsche are part of the same group. The Audi defaults to what they call auto regen, which means the car is coasting when you let go of the accelerator, and it will only regen if you approach another car. Then it goes to maximum regen, which is still not as strong as our i3 or the Tesla we had, but it's decent. It almost allows you the one pedal driving. So we'll find out about the Taycan if that's something similar or if there's no regen at all, whether auto or manual. So with the Audi e-tron, you can, through the menus, change it to manual and maximize the regen through the shift pedal. So the minus would increase the regen. Not very logical, but that's how it works. Okay, so let's put it, because we're now back in the city on the city streets, let's put it back in e-power. There you go. And of course, it just goes quiet. So as you can see, the lights here for charge, as soon as I apply the brake pedal, you can see the charge lights coming on, which means that it's basically regenerating. Okay, and then so on the left is the e-power, on the right is the e-charge, but it's all done through the brake pedal and accelerator pedal. So again, no possibility of one pedal driving in the Porsches, whether it's plug-in hybrid or full electric. Okay, that's their philosophy. Other than that, since we're talking about the comparison between this plug-in Cayenne and a plug-in Range Rover, and by the way, the Range Rover, it's offered in the Sport and in the full size. So, if you're gonna go for the plug-in hybrid full size Range Rover, then that can go well above 150,000. This car, top spec, in this base version is, it starts at 90 and ends at around 128. So the one we're driving as it is 128,000. But this is the base version of the e-hybrid. You have a turbo e-hybrid, which is double the price. So it starts at 180,000, over 180,000 Canadian, and can be spec'd out to well over 200. Why? That car has almost 700 horsepower, okay, between the turbo V8 and the electric motor. So it's 3.5 seconds to 100, etc., etc. But for 180,000, there's a lot of other exotics you can get as well. Okay, between the two, between a Cayenne and a Range Rover, even though we have a weak spot in our hearts for the Range Rover, we've had a few before. Just the way it drives, it's a much nicer car to drive. Also, the problem with the Range Rover, it does regen, so you have a bit of that single pedal driving feel to it. So it regens more than the Cayenne without applying the brake pedal, but it does not have the e-charge mode, which you have here, and all of the other plug-in hybrids that we have test driven and know of do have the e-charge mode. So our X5, for example, recharges to only up to 50% using the engine. The newer models from BMW are capable of recharging all the way up to 100%. Okay, the Volvo's the same. Every single plug-in hybrid Volvo, by the way, that would be the other consideration. For most, the XC90, which would be in the same category as this. In fact, the XC90 plug-in hybrid T8, whether Polestar engineered or the base version, which starts around 80,000 and goes to well over 100,000, as you have seen on our video. So that will be the fourth choice for your plug-in hybrid luxury SUVs. All of them have the e-charge mode, except for the Range Rover, which is really disappointing because you can only recharge it by plugging in. So let's say what we do when we go to our cottage is we go pure electric in the city. As soon as we hit the 400, we put it in save mode, charges battery back up to 50%, which then allows us to go again once we leave the highway on the way to the just before the cottage to go in pure electric mode. Okay, and that that really reduces the consumption of the car. If you leave it an auto hybrid, the car will have similar performance in terms of similar efficiency, so you can just do that. But we like kind of driving in pure electric in the city, and you know, use the e-charge mode on the on the highway. This is where the electric motors are not very efficient. So we're still showing the range of 21. We went down from 31 to 21. It's nice to have this battery meter and the range showing right here. What we love about the BMW though, that you have state of charge showing on your dashboard. So none of the other plug-in hybrids, they will give you, this is a guess, we call it guessometer, because it will change according to your style of driving. And so it's nice to know the actual percentage of the battery. So again, the only plug-in hybrid that does that is the X5. So it's our X5, which is now 2 years old. So it's due for replacement in a few months. Our impressions of this car, it's a great Cayenne. It's actually faster than the Cayenne S. So imagine this, the car is cheaper than the Cayenne S with the V8 engine, and this has a higher performance than the Cayenne S. So we definitely highly recommend it. Apparently, very high percentage of sales for both the Cayenne and the Panamera are the plug-in hybrid models because people like the power, the combination of the two. In the meantime, out of this matchup between the Porsche plug-in and the Range Rover plug-in, in our opinion, the Cayenne plug-in wins hands down. Okay, there's basically no comparison unless you're a Range Rover fan and you want to show your green credentials to show that you can plug in. In terms of the actual port location, and you've probably seen pictures on our Facebook page, this Cayenne, the plug is in the back, just like in the Q5 plug-in. So the gas, the filler cap for the gas is on the right side in the back. The plug for the level 2 charging is on the left side, on the driver's side. At this moment, I would like to thank everyone who was involved, who provided us with the car. So first of all, Porsche Canada, thank you very much for allowing us to drive this Cayenne e-hybrid. Thank you to Volvo Canada for allowing us many cars in the last few months. And to the two dealerships that did allow us to go and actually shoot the videos of the comparison in their dealership. So Queensway Audi and its manager Taylor Simmons, and Jaguar Land Rover Metro West. The manager there is Idris Malik. So thank you to all of them for providing us car for this, our first ever comparison of 4 different plug-in hybrids and 2 different EVs. Thank you very much for watching, and see you next time.